think I'm blocking you. Do one of these. I'll lean back.
Check, check. Perfect. Awesome. You guys want to check your mics as well, real quick?
Check,
Hello, test.
Test.
Awesome.
You're good.
Well, GM everyone, it's been a fun ETHDenver so far, so we'll kind of get into the gist of it in a sec, but good to see you all here. We're going to have a panel here deep diving into a few things, everything from AI to infra to like how crypto's biggest products actually get built, as the title says. So before we get into it, we'll do a quick round of intros, and the icebreaker question for today is, what is the last crypto product you used? And it can't be the company you work at. I'll let you go first.
Awesome. Well, I'm Sophia. I am on the developer acceleration team at Ethereum Foundation. This is not fair because every crypto product I use has to touch Ethereum somehow. But the last product I used was agentic wallets on Coinbase. I was typing in my Telegram to my agent to make a wallet and make it super secure and make no mistakes. And we'll see. It hasn't gotten hacked yet, so I think it's doing well.
Love it.
Hey everyone, Eli Engelman from the Uniswap Labs team. I'm on the growth team. The last crypto app I downloaded was FOMO. I think it's a very fast, snappy, fun, social, and interactive app.
Hey guys, Will McCormick from Robinhood. I'm on the partnerships team. I've been playing around a lot with Courtyard, which is a collectibles trading. It's a fun app, very efficient, really good use of blockchain. Buying some Pokemon cards, bringing me back, so I've been enjoying that.
Love it. Okay, I'll take a stab at that. Jason from the EF just posted something on Forecaster, and I got a notification, and I was like, oh, I haven't used Forecaster in a bit. And I just retweeted his post on there. But like, yeah, Forecaster is definitely interesting product. That was my last one. Cool, and before we get into the meat of it, I just want to get a quick vibe check from you guys. ETHDenver, I'm sure you've been to multiple ETHDenvers already. How are you guys feeling? Where do you see the vibes at right now? Quick pulse check.
Yeah. Okay. I'll start here. I think it's great. The venue is amazing, and what I've really admired is I'm meeting a lot of new folks. I'd say a lot of ETHDenvers I've gone to in the past, I see the same few people, and this time I've actually met a lot of new people. So that makes me really hopeful that there's new growth, new talent, new people entering this industry.
Yeah, I echo that, and I think another call out is just where people are coming from. A big international presence this year, maybe compared to last. So definitely been fun to see.
Yeah, I like the new venue. Kind of feels like a mini Birdie Man in here or something. A lot of interactive, great design. So it feels very fun. It's a great place to hang out, so really enjoying it.
100%, yeah. I also think it's been more like high quality because like I would say like there's less tourists compared to usual. I kind of like the tourists. It was nice to have like AI people from San Francisco or like just like finance bros from New York kind of come in to like check the vibes out. But yeah, for sure. Cool. Well, we'll get into a little bit of an infra conversation now. So you're all building like very different products. You're building combinations of chains, protocols, wallets, consumer products. I'm curious, what's the one infra decision that you made recently that is starting to define your strategy for this year going forward?
I'm happy to start. Yeah, recently we've made the decision to externalize a lot of our execution stack. That's kind of come into the form of a developer portal that we actually launched a beta version this morning of. So now builders, developers, really anyone can come onto this portal, generate their own API keys, and be able to programmatically tap into Uniswap's liquidity via very easy-to-use REST API. That supports both swapping across 16 plus chains as well as programmatic LP tooling. And that's really kind of our bet of the future is looking at changing distribution rails, the rise of agentic trading, all these different teams looking to add swap functionality into their apps, and being able to say, hey, this was kind of the infrastructure that we use for our wallet, our consumer apps, and be able to externalize that, make it public facing, really lower those barriers to entry and some of the friction points that developers were previously facing. So really excited about that launch.
Yeah, we had a Robinhood chain testnet last Tuesday, so that went great. So infrastructure is top of mind. A lot of that core is just getting the core infrastructure providers like Alchemy for RPC nodes, Chainlink, Layer Zero, who they had a great event last week as well. So a lot of it's just being like core building the building blocks which developers can build on. We're already seeing quite an early adoption even of the testnet. So I think Johan was here yesterday, said we've already seen like 1 million wallets and we're already seeing a lot of transactions. So really exciting. That's our first big on-chain play. We've obviously provided some, swaps through Robinhood Wallet, but in terms of like a big infrastructure bet, this is a huge one for the company. So we have tokenized stocks in Europe already. That's on Arbitrum, but it's going to be merging over to Robinhood Chain. So that's just really exciting. I'm sure we'll get more into that later.
Yeah, I think what's really exciting about being on the developer acceleration team is we had a prior assumption that the most of the developers or the builders that we're building for are human. And recently, we've started to see that actually the new entrants who are excited about building on Ethereum and using our dev tools are not humans, they are agents. And so what we're really focusing on, and it's actually pivoted our entire strategy, is how do we ensure that our developer tools are agent ready? And so when an agent goes in and says, hey, build me a dApp, make no mistakes, it can actually pull information about the Ethereum blockchain, about we have scaffold ETH, like a template for building apps. It can pull up the correct wallet providers. It can know the correct contract addresses. All of these specific skills that an LLM actually isn't trained on or isn't fine-tuned to have correct. It will hallucinate. I'm sure if you've ever tried building or vibe coding a dApp, it is not a great experience. So our initial thing that we're creating right now is ETH Skills. This is an actual skills package that you can inject straight into any of your vibe-coded projects or just give it straight to an agent. And our goal is that you can one-shot build an app just from this ETH Skills package and understanding or knowledge base. So that's what we're currently working on.
Very cool. I'm curious, Sophia. So one of the hardest challenges there would be like trade-offs you'd have to make with like, how do you set up guardrails, or how do you what providers you work with? Curious, kind of like, what was the learning or the takeaway as you went through like trying to build this AI native product internally at the EF?
Yeah, I think one of the big takeaways is there's a lot of products that do similar things, but with a different trade-off. And that's really where AI gets really confused when it's building. It goes, well, why should I use this oracle versus this oracle? Or do I go here or here? So there's a lot of trade-offs that you have to make. I think at the EF standpoint, it's not fair for us to be opinionated. Rather, where we're trying to do is we're trying to contact all the different developer tools and say, hey, I know you have docs. Are they LLM ready? Can people read them? Do you have a skills package that is easy for them to inject? And then they can be biased about why they think people should use their tools. And we're more just the curator of, hey, here's all the things that exist and ensuring that all the tools in the ecosystem are AI, LLM, agent builder ready.
I like that. And we're also still early. Like we think we are late, but I look at the mass market and just general consumers, and we're still early. So I think
we're so early.
Attention to detail matters. Eli, you said something about the developer portal launch. That sounds really exciting. Do you have something to add on top of what Sophia said in terms of like your AI strategy maybe going forward?
Yeah, and I think that's evolving by the minute. Is agents are developing and technology is moving forward. I think that it's definitely a new meta that Uniswap and other protocols are looking to capture flow on, and I think that we need to be ready to adapt to changing distribution rails. And so being able to say, hey, we're moving our existing execution stack away from our own consumer apps and existing integrations, and really kind of opening it up to the masses is really kind of our step or bet in that direction.
Love it. How about you, Will? Like, where does Robinhood and maybe even you personally stand in terms of like how you can become AI ready this year?
We're definitely doing more. I think our big AI product we had this year is Cortex. It's basically our news aggregator. Gives very snappy updates to our customers. One of the things we always want in the app is just like quick information. People are looking to research with our Robinhood. It's not just trading. They're looking at charts. They want to see what's going on that day. And now we've really made it really succinct. We just launched that in crypto as well, so we're sourcing from crypto news channels as well. Internally, we're definitely starting to see a lot more on the engineering side, just make things more efficient. On the business side, I'll see a bunch of tools. We all love just being able to make all our lives more efficient. And as we grow our team, especially with Bitstamp, just bring all our tools together so that we're much more aligned in a kind of a AI CRM way. But I know we have a lot of big bets in AI coming up. Cortex is the first one, but that's gone really well. So it's definitely proving a really good use case of the company that we need to do more.
100%, yeah. To change directions a bit, I think something that all of us here have in common is that we're trying to solve and improve onboarding to crypto for the mass market, right? Whether it's Uniswap with trading, Robinhood with the retail market, or the EF with actually stewarding a lot of these decisions. And we touched on developers a bit. I think today it's been the easiest it's ever been to build a crypto native app. 3 years ago, the number of scaffolding and RPCs and nodes and everything you'd have to balance is pretty insane. And if you actually manage to build an app and scale, that was a huge, sizable feat, right? So I think we're getting to a good spot for developers. But what about users? How do we solve, what are some of the biggest challenges that, infra and generally us as a space should solve this year to make onboarding a lot easier?
I can go first. What we've done in Europe with tokenized stocks has been a real good use case. The genesis of that was we've been trying to grow globally. We've obviously been, we're big in the US, been trying to go globally. It's very hard to scale. There's a lot of regulatory issues. When Mika came along, we found that we could actually bring stocks to our crypto-only app. And when you're trading in Europe, it just feels like you're trading an equity. So we've really abstracted all that away. And once they withdraw, they'll be able to self-withdraw once our mainnet launches and get all the additional utility on chain. But we're really focused on just abstracting away as much as possible, and that's been the most success to adoption. The more we try to throw in, you have to transfer tokens or any gas issues, that just is a blocker. So that's a real big use case. We're expanding that to other markets. It's not available in the US yet, but hopefully one day, and that'll be a big unlock for the entire crypto industry.
Yeah, I think adding on to that, the social logins, account abstraction, simplifying the gas process are all very helpful steps. And I think furthermore upon that, a thing that brands and teams should be focusing on is the trust and reputation and consistency day in and day out, building up those brands, which is something that I think Robinhood has done exceptionally well in being able to onboard new users. New users into the crypto ecosystem aren't coming in and auditing smart contracts and kind of looking under the hood. They're really kind of taking that 30,000-foot approach and saying, who's the brand that I trust? Who's the one that's kind of showing up, in the media and is kind of earning this respect? And I think that, that is a very powerful tool that, a lot of teams are, like you guys are fortunate to, have built up that reputation to be able to, lean on to help onboard those users in the future.
Okay, my hot take is that users, and not just in crypto, but in any industry, will probably not be using apps. The idea of going to an app, opening it up, logging in, and all of that will be obsolete in a matter of months. You'll probably just be interacting with some chatbot or some agent and say, book my hotel and plan my trip for me, and it does it all, and you won't actually be on apps. And so I do think that is a huge, huge advantage for the Ethereum ecosystem, for all the tools that we're building, because our big bottleneck has just been UX. It's no secret that UX on crypto apps is awful. And the good news is if you don't have humans using these apps, rather it's agents using these apps, that will be a huge advantage. And I think the next killer app will be an agent itself. Already, like Austin, when he leads builder growth at Ethereum Foundation, when he's signing a multi-sig transaction, it's an agent that signs, one of the transactions, then texts him on Telegram and says, hey, here's the transaction, here's what the transaction is doing in plain English and plain words. Do you want to pass it? Yes or no? Do your Face ID passcode, and it signs it for you. What a much nicer user experience than having to go into Gnosis Save, connect your wallet, figure out which one it is, what chain you're on, read the little embedded code of what is this transaction doing? What am I giving it pre-approvals to drain my wallet? Who knows? So it's really going to simplify the UX layer, and I think that we're going to have a huge wave of adoption this year because of that.
Right. It's like the UI UX is what can get the user in the door. The infrastructure is what kind of keeps them and keeps them going forward. And the teams that can thread the needle on both are the ones that are going to stay around.
Totally.
100%. And I think the interesting part here is I had this aha moment myself, kind of what you mentioned, Sophia, where I asked an agent to just build a trading bot, and I see through X402 and through other protocols that we're starting to build from the ground up, the process of SaaS traditionally is almost broken in the agent model. I call it personalized SaaS, where it's it knows what kind of data it needs. it queries like the top APIs or the top, like providers for that, and then automatically does the execution for you, where your goal is to drive the strategy and to actually think of what problem you're trying to solve, right? I think that's magical. Versus before, it's like you need to understand what vendors are out there, do a bunch of research, get compliance, and it's like I think basically the build-out process is starting to become as fast as it's ever been. Maybe internally, I'm sure you guys are doing this a lot at your teams. Like, what's the biggest unlock been with agents and with AI internally?
Oh, that's a good question about internally. Anyone else want to start off?
I think internally, like we've used some systems like we have like Lean, which is just making the entire life of just finding out everything across the entire org. I think we're almost 2,000 people now. We're onboarding new people. We're acquiring, new exchanges and onboarding a lot of these new people. Just being able to have access to the entire wealth and not having silos of information through there. That's very much like I'm sure that's the same for every organization. I'm sure you're seeing it at Uniswap. I think there's much more we can do, but I think it's something which it's taken a while for companies to get used to, but I think now it's like you have to use it, and now it's accelerated in the last 3 months. I'm seeing the entire org just use it for much more efficiencies, especially on the business side, just make our life much easier, just like meeting notes, building presentations. It just give us much more time to focus on the high impact stuff, which has been a delight.
Yeah, and I think within our organization, our design team, our product team have been using AI tooling a lot to iterate a bit faster. I know that the Claude and Figma partnership that was announced earlier this week, I'm sure that a lot of teams are going to start looking towards new tooling like that to continue to advance it. But yeah, I agree with Will. Like on the BD side, just internalizing notes, action items, things like that.
I just joined Ethereum Foundation a week ago, so I'm still
Congrats.
I don't even have an email set up. I'm not even in the Slack channels. I'm just kidding. We don't use Slack. We use Mattermost. It's a decentralized Slack, and so I haven't figured that out yet. I do know that some other teams, like the public goods funding teams, grants committee teams, they use a lot of AI tooling to actually determine grant allocations or data and that whole aspect. And so that I'm excited to learn more about. Yeah.
100%. No, I think for us as well, I think the biggest unlock has been seeing, I guess the lines between being a technical and non-technical person is starting to get blurred. So like we have our support engineers building the best in-house tool that would have been a SaaS CRM that we'd previously buy and purchase ourselves, right? So I think like the unlock has been just people starting to be more on like a level playing field where your ability to execute faster is actually what makes you valuable. And I think that's fascinating. One thing that I see, and this is a question that I get asked a lot, is like, how do you work well with institutions? You guys announced your BlackRock partnership, was that recently, right, at Uniswap? And obviously, Will, you work with a lot of institutions at Robinhood. And Sophia, I'm sure a big part of your role, and also me within Zerion, right? Like we are, in a way, also educating institutions on how to better adopt crypto rails, be it fintechs or regulators. So like, for infra more specifically, and also just for an industry more broadly, like what have been some of the learnings y'all have had to anyone here, who wants to work with institutions or enterprise, right? Like how do we as an industry change our reputation or maybe even evolve our reputation to be more institution friendly?
Yeah, and I don't know if it's like we need to change our reputation or kind of just change the framing and pitch. I think that institutions are trying to come on chain, and I think that's something that's kind of worked well for our team, over the last 1 to 3 years has been, kind of explaining on-chain markets as a third execution venue. Traditionally you had centralized exchanges, you had OTC desks. Okay, now you have this whole thing called on-chain markets. What exactly is that? How do I execute? What are the steps to, fund an account? What are the steps to actually go, find a marketplace to swap? I don't have to have, pre-funded accounts through an OTC desk or pay these spreads and pay these, high fees. What does liquidity look like? Projects are TGing, coming on chain. Institutions don't want to wait until exchanges go through these formal listing processes and, build up liquidity, and, they just want to be able to access and trade these assets. And so, kind of positioning it is this new execution venue, or is this growing execution venue, and saying, hey, you don't need to move 100% of your stack on chain, but if you're not building the infrastructure to get on chain today, you're going to be missing out when everything rolls through from a regulatory standpoint and everything really starts to continue to evolve and pick up.
I think the Genius Act this year really was a signal. It was just stables, but obviously Stables are a huge part of just like moving money and also building infrastructure on top of it. We acquired Bitstamp, I think, close around the same time Jesus Act passed, their institutional arm. Since then, the demand has really picked up. We've also done some real operational efficiencies. So we moved our crypto settlements from banking settlements to just stables, and that saved us a huge amount of money, a huge amount of time, less credit risk, 24/7 trading, just much more efficient. And I think that's like a real proof of efficiency versus just like speculating in research. We've all spoken to big institutions, and they always have like a research team, and they're kind of staying on top, on top of it. They're not really building products, but they're doing partnerships. But now it's very much like, okay, this is the green light. You have to do it, and you're seeing what happened with Stripe and Tempo moving crypto payments on chain. And especially now with a lot, like Robinhood, we're going global. There's a lot of other companies who are going global as well. And it's just like a much more efficient way to do it with payments and operational efficiencies. So that's the first step. But then they're going to see what's really benefiting them, and they'll explore more. We're seeing a lot in DeFi, obviously. I think institutions really seeing what's happening with the on-chain lending with the SOFR rates of going down. So on the USD side. And I think that's a big trend we're seeing for the rest of this year.
Yeah, I'll just quickly add, the more institutional adoption, it adds other institutions and enterprises to also, it creates that credibility and creates that flywheel. And what's great about the Ethereum ecosystem is it's definitely the most trusted by institutions and enterprise globally. And so it already 65% of every single real world asset on chain is settled on Ethereum. And so that will probably just continue to kick off the flywheel. No one's going to get fired for choosing Ethereum as their infrastructure from an institution standpoint, and that's a good place to be.
100%. I guess credibly neutral, trusted, for sure. So what I'm hearing is, I guess this can be a hot take, right? Like, is the end game that a lot of these institutions and some of their end users use crypto without even realizing that it's crypto under the hood? Is that kind of the vibe check that I'm getting from y'all?
I think that's going to take a while, but I think that sure is the direction that things are moving in with even just things like social login, Face ID login, and account abstraction, and all these fintechs adding it into existing workflows. I think that is like a great future end state, but I don't know if it's going to happen in the next year or two.
Yeah. I wouldn't say that's the end game as in a singular point. I think what's great about Ethereum ecosystem is we have a plurality of perspectives where we think this technology can go, and it's diverse and big enough to allow all of those perspectives to shine and take it into that direction. Ultimately, it's not just a finance 2.0 tool. It is a tool that enables trustless commitments, that enables a lot of things like finance 2.0, but also rewriting how we create software as a whole. So I don't think there's one singular point for an end game, but go in whatever direction is you're the most excited about, go in that direction. And if everyone does that, it'll be good.
Yeah, I think at Robinhood in particular, we're on-ramping people just to even investing and then crypto as well. So for us, it's really important to abstract it away so there's not that drop-off. But what we're trying to do is, they enter crypto, they see the benefits of it, they go deeper, then they go on-chain, they start playing around with Ethereum, and then there's other products out there. So we are adding more things natively to Robinhood, like we launched staking last year, a lot more planned. But once you want to go deeper, you have to go to DeFi. I think as we grow our footprint more in DeFi, I do think it will be very much an abstracting away. But I think that's unique to us just because we have a lot of customers who haven't tried it for the first time. But the on-chain ecosystem is getting a lot better, and especially with trading apps like FOMO you mentioned, they're just making like Moonshot's being great at this, just making it really clean and simple, and the UX really straightforward. So the ones that are doing it well are really benefiting, and we're all seeing that.
Yeah, 100%. I think quick take from me is we've been working a lot more with fintech or even e-commerce companies where they come in with a stable coin or a payments native use case, and a lot of times they want to abstract away the entire crypto flow to their end users. So I definitely see that trend picking up, and I think as an industry, it's up to us to actually educate and onboard a lot of these products in the best way possible. Cool. Well, we have a few minutes left. What I like to do towards the end is actually have a little rapid fire section. So it'll be a quick set of questions I have. You can answer. Some of them might be controversial, but I'll let you determine how much you want to share. First question: what do you think is the biggest unsolved problem in crypto right now?
new talent entering.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the biggest problem, but on the execution side, I think that the economics problem. I think that there's teams that take positive slippage or have agreements on the side in terms of routing preferences and things like that. Like best execution, in my opinion, should be best execution for the end user, and not best terms to get that execution. And I think that kind of being very transparent with users is of huge importance, and it's really important that the industry gets this right over the next year or two, especially as regulation starts to take shape and form a little bit more. Otherwise, we're going to slide backwards.
I think on-ramping in DeFi, just is especially for we've all been there. You just want $1 of gas. You hit a KYB, you're like, screw this, I'm done. I still think that's a huge drop-off point. See a lot more Apple Pay, which is just makes life so much easier. There's still a lot more we can do there, especially internationally. I think US we're pretty well covered, but outside of that, I think that's still a blocker. We need to all do better as an industry to make the UX better.
Yeah, no, I like what you said. I think for us, it's abstracting away the UX of chains and what networks you're on and gas. I think that's still pretty much a big pain point, and it's only going to get more complicated. So we need good standards for that. Next question: what is the most underrated city in the world for crypto builders?
San Francisco. I live there, so I'm biased, but it's genuinely where so much technology is being shaped. And I encourage everyone to come out there and share your story, share why this technology, why you work here. Those people need to hear it.
I'll say Sao Paulo. We were down there for a week last year and met with a bunch of really talented teams and really cool builders. And definitely see Sao Paulo driving and Brazil driving the LATAM expansion for years to come.
As a San Franciscan, I'll double on that. But also my bias, Dublin, Ireland's where I'm from. I went out there for Christmas. Aave set up an office there. Huge amount of engineering talent, especially on the hardware side, the software. We have Silicon Docs there. It used to be a very small community, but ETHDenver this year was popping. So very excited to see what's going on there.
Yeah, no, for sure. I would say somewhere Europe gets a lot of shit, I think, but definitely London and Lisbon. I spent a lot of time between both places. I think they are still quite underrated because even with the regulation and with the challenges they face, the tailwinds there. I think there's a lot of really cool teams and builders. All right, next question: Claude or OpenAI?
Claude.
Whoever ships more faster, but I'll say Claude right now.
I've been using OpenAI, but I need to use Claude more, and everyone's telling me much more on it.
Yeah, I guess I just use Cursor and just use whatever model is best there. Cool. To close, one sentence each. What should builders in this room focus on in 2026?
UX.
I think understand that distribution rails are consistently changing and continuing to keep up with that.
That technology is changing so fast, and they actually have agency right now to shape it. And the Ethereum ecosystem is for sure one of the best ecosystems, industries in the world for talented, high agency people to thrive and make it.
Mic drop.
Thank you all. This has been great. Give a round of applause to them.